You're listening to the micro version of the Savage Lovecast. www.savagelovecast.com.
If you're stuck in a relationship quandary, or if you're looking for sexual harmony, well, there's nothing you can't ask on the Savage Lovecast.
Henry II was the King of England in the 12th century. I'm a bit of a history geek. It's my secret private shame. When I'm home alone in the middle of the night and I want to read something, I don't go online and read your Tumblr porn blogs. I don't read scientific studies about human sexuality or relationships. I read about royal families and European history and my favorite period, the Stuarts, the English Revolution, the beheading of Charles I, the interregnum, the Restoration, Charles II. It's all fascinating stuff. But anyway, that's my secret middle of the night reading. Not sex stuff, not science stuff, but history stuff. Thomas Becket, Henry II, King of England. There was this priest, the Archbishop of Canterbury, named Thomas Becket, who really annoyed the fuck out of him. Wouldn't cede some of his authority to the king, maintain these ecclesiastical courts where basically shitty priests could commit a crime and then get tried in ecclesiastical court and get off. Does that sound familiar? Should sound pretty fucking familiar. This isn't new with the Catholic Church. Protecting shitty priests who did shitty things goes way back, all the way back, in the case of Thomas Becket, to the 12th century. Anyway, Henry II wasn't a big fan of Thomas Becket, even though they had been friends when they were coming up. They grew up together, they were friends, and they had this huge falling out. And Henry II famously, in a rage, just angry, pounding the podium, if indeed they had podiums in the 12th century to pound, but figuratively pounding the podium, said, "Who will rid me of this troublesome priest?" And 4 knights went to Canterbury Cathedral, pulled out their swords, and hacked Thomas Becket to pieces, and rid Henry II of this troublesome priest. And this whole last week, as I have been listening to Donald Trump speaking at Trump rallies, about Gonzalo Curiel, the judge who is presiding over the civil case against Donald Trump and Trump University, this fucking scam. And he's calling this guy, who was born in Indiana, a Mexican who shouldn't be able to sit in judgment over Donald Trump because he obviously has this bias because Trump's going to build a wall, and he's calling him a hater and calling him a hater. And I just sit there thinking, listening to the news reports, that what we're seeing is the "who will rid me of this troublesome priesting," potentially, of this judge. So I hope they've upped his security detail, because the game Donald Trump is playing, whether he knows it or not, is a dangerous one. And I'm flabbergasted. I'm heartened, though, on one hand, by the sort of media and political system, immune system response to this. There has been pushback. Everyone's flabbergasted. Even some of the people who had been only too recently cupping Donald Trump's balls, like Megyn Kelly, are calling him out on this. And Paul Ryan, the day he endorsed Donald Trump, coincidentally was the day Donald Trump began to attack this judge, born in Indiana, began, in my opinion, potentially, "who will rid me of this troublesome priesting," this judge born in Indiana. Paul Ryan endorsed Donald Trump that day. Later that day, Donald Trump went off on this judge, and later that day, Paul Ryan said he had a problem with that. Not a big enough problem to withdraw his endorsement, of course, but a problem with that. So there's been some pushback in the media and in politics, and that's helping. Well, that's some indication that we're going to have a slightly brighter political future, that our institutions and the elites, these prominent people, still have a capacity to see hate for what hate is, to see the threat that Donald Trump and his rhetoric represents to our system of government, to the separation of powers, to the independent judiciary, and push back hard against it. Maybe Megyn Kelly and the handful of Republicans, or not some small handful, including Newt Gingrich, who only too recently was seen with his tongue up Donald Trump's ass, has come out and criticized what Donald Trump has been saying about this judge. Maybe it's an indication that the better angels of their natures are actually still sitting on their shoulders and have been able to mumble something softly through the ball gags that Republicans stuff in their mouths, and it's been picked up. Or maybe just the GOP is seeing the writing on the wall demographically and realizing that the longer Donald Trump goes on like this, the longer it's going to be before there is a Republican in the White House, if there ever is a Republican in the White House ever again. Demographically, this country is changing. Hispanics, Latinos, the largest minority group in this country and growing. I think the largest single ethnicity in California. And Republicans are going, yeah, this isn't helping. This isn't helping our long-term prospects that we are doubling, tripling, and quadrupling down, that we are sinking to the bottom of the ocean, lashed to this out-of-control, dangerous bigot, might not be in our best interests over the long term, because Donald Trump is going to lose this election, and it's going to be over for him. But his legacy, the people who stood beside him, won't be over for them for a very long time. They have elections to lose in the future, and they are going to lose them. Donald Trump not helping the Republican Party. You know who else isn't helping right now? Anti-Trump protesters going to Trump rallies and beating the shit out of people in the streets outside of those Trump rallies. I don't know if you saw the videos and the clips on Twitter. There's a rundown of them at the Washington Post. Google Trump rally, Washington Post, San Jose, and you will see Trump supporters getting cold-cocked, getting punched in the face by someone they didn't see coming. You will see Trump supporters having things thrown in their face. You will see Trump supporters walking down the street after having been assaulted, bleeding all over themselves and down their shirts. This, if you are against Donald Trump, if you do not want to see this man in office, this is absolutely, positively the wrong thing to be doing. You are being played. Donald Trump is not in a million years going to win in California. No Republican is going to win an election in California for a national office in a million years at this rate. Why is Donald Trump holding rallies in San Jose and Anaheim and San Diego, cities with very large Hispanic communities, cities with large progressive communities, cities full of people who are pissed off about Donald Trump, to get video just like this, to get the video that some out-of-control anti-Trumpers are handing him, playing into his hands, because then he can be the law and order guy. Then they can be the real victims. Don't be suckered. If you're going to a Trump rally, no assaulting people, please. Unless you're trying to help Donald Trump get his fucking ass elected. I just said he's not going to win the White House, and I'm confident that he will not. That ultimately we will keep this motherfucker out of the White House, because what elevated Donald Trump to the position he's in now is the GOP base, which is sick and has been sick for a very long time with hatred and fear, shot through with it like a cancer. But the GOP base is not the American people, and the American people are not going to put that orange shitbag in the White House. But you make it harder to keep that orange shitbag out of the White House. You're making the hill we all have to climb a little steeper when you show up at Trump rallies and assault men and women, surround them and assault them in front of TV cameras, in front of cell phone video cameras, which are ubiquitous and everywhere. You cannot assault people, period. You should not assault people, period. And I agree with Josh Marshall, writing at Talking Points Memo, who says, this is all on video. We know who these people are. We can find the people who committed these assaults and arrest them. And I agree, we should. The authorities should. A, because it's wrong to assault people. B, because this has got to stop, or we're going to put Henry II in the White House. And we don't want Henry II in the White House. Go read about Henry II. You don't want that motherfucker in the White House. We don't want this motherfucker, Donald Trump, demagogue, in the White House. So it's Tuesday, recording this before the results come in from New Jersey and California on the Democratic side. Very likely Hillary Clinton is now the nominee. And we are all going to unite behind Hillary now, support Hillary now, and keep Donald Trump out of the White House now and forever. Your calls after this. This episode of the Savage Lovecast is brought to you by Casper, an online retailer of premium mattresses for a fraction of the price, because everyone deserves a great night's sleep. Get $50 off any mattress purchase by visiting casper.com/savage and entering the promo code SAVAGE.
This episode is brought to you by Squarespace. Squarespace is the easiest way to create a beautiful website, blog, or online store for you and your ideas. Squarespace features an elegant interface, beautiful templates, and incredible 24/7 customer support. Try Squarespace at squarespace.com and enter offer code SAVAGE at checkout to get 10% off. That's squarespace.com, offer code SAVAGE.
Today's Savage Lovecast is brought to you by Me Undies. High quality, super comfortable, good looking undies. Get 20% off your first order when you go to meundies.com/savage.
Hey, Dan. I'm a 25-year-old straight female, and I have a question about unreasonable friend requests. I went through a really traumatic breakup about 2 years ago. The guy and I dated for 2 years. He was my first almost everything, and our relationship was really good, but the breakup and its after effects were complicated and messy. We both did things wrong, but the bottom line is he was super manipulative and kind of left me for someone else. Like, we were broken up, but we were having sex and saying I love you that morning and talking about getting back together, and she was his girlfriend that evening. Plus, he kept me on the hook for a year after that happened, and there's a lot I'm sure his now fiancé doesn't know. I don't know if the severity of my feelings were even justified, but it took me a long, long time to not feel like garbage every day after what happened, especially since he was still talking to me all the time, and it took me a year to cut him off. Since then, though, I've done all the right things. I have a good social life. I go to the gym. I've dated a lot, but haven't found anyone serious. And for the most part now, I'm happy and over it. But I met my ex through mutual friends who are getting married next week, and we're both in the wedding party. And I have been really, really anxious about having to spend time around him because I'm afraid it's going to throw me back into the misery zone when climbing out of that place was really fucking hard. I resigned myself to spending one day with him and his fiancée, but the problem is the groom really wants my ex's fiancée to be invited to all the wedding festivities that my ex isn't part of, like the bridal shower and the bachelorette party. The bride is my oldest friend, and she knows what I went through with the ex, but her soon-to-be husband doesn't understand why she's not inviting the ex's fiancée to these things. We managed to get through the bridal shower without her there, but the bachelorette party, which I organized and I'm throwing, is coming up, and the groom really wants the fiancé to be invited. My friend asked me if that's okay, and I said no, that if she needs to invite the fiancé to keep the peace with the groom, I understand, but I will not be at the party that I organized. My question is, do I have a right to declare ultimatums like that? I don't want to be a brat, but I feel like this is a reasonable demand in the face of an emotionally difficult situation for me. My ex and his fiancé have already taken precedence at that friend's other parties, and I haven't said anything. Am I standing up for myself or just being a difficult bitch?
All right. First, being a bitch and standing up for yourself, not mutually exclusive phenomena. Sometimes to stand up for yourself, you got to be a bitch. And of course, whether you're regarded as a bitch is subjective. Sometimes we stand up for ourselves and we are perceived as bitches when we are just standing up for ourselves. But sometimes to stand up for yourself, you got to kind of bring the bitch. All that said, I'm a little confused by your problem. I felt like I needed a flow chart, a wedding seat chart to follow this. You and your ex were introduced by mutual friends. Those mutual friends are now getting married. Your ex, who played you and it took you a long time to get over, has a new fiancé who's included or should be included or wants to be included, or the mutual friends wish to see included in the wedding festivities, and you can't be in a room with her. Goddamn her. You can't stand the sight of her. Not because of anything she did, but because of everything your ex did. Seems to me that you are projecting your anger at your ex onto his new girlfriend, where it may not be appropriately applied. That she was on deck while you were still on dick, while you were still fucking your ex, and he was lying to you and playing you and telling you what you wished to hear isn't her doing or her fault. I almost feel like you could empathize with her a bit because she doesn't seem to realize what a shitty husband she's about to acquire, if he indeed is 100% of the problem. Seems to me that in a case like this, what you would want to do is suck it up and be the bigger person. You, at a large bachelorette party, it is easy to pivot around and avoid someone you don't wish to interact with. Same thing at a bridal shower. It's not hard to make sure you are positioned on the other side of the room. It's not hard to deputize a couple of friends to run interference and make sure that someone's always at your elbow and ready to occupy your time, cut in, be there for you to turn to if your ex's fiancé, who you are slightly irrationally angry at because you're truly angry at your ex and you're sort of projecting that onto her, if she should come into your line of sight or say something, that there's someone for you to dance off with. Not hard to do. And I think it would win you praise. It would make you look like the more mature person in the room, like the better person. And indeed, if your ex is a holy shitty human being who did shitty things to you, don't you want to look like the better person? Doesn't mean it won't be hard. Doesn't mean it won't be difficult. It's a good skill to acquire as well, particularly over the course of your long and inevitably complicated life, where you are going to wind up at weddings, at christenings, at first communions, if you're Catholic, at funerals, at bridal showers, at baby showers, funeral homes, with people that you despise, that you happen to be related to or happen to have been related to at some point, and being able to paste a smile on your face and deal and get through it, make a beeline for the bar across the street immediately after and knock one back. That's an important skill to acquire. And the earlier you acquire it in life, the more awful incidents and interactions it's going to carry you through. So why not seize the opportunity to acquire that skill now and let the bastard ex-boyfriend's fiance, who sounds blameless in all of this, you didn't list anything that she did wrong, except being with him while he was still playing you, which is, again, not her doing or her fault necessarily. Let her come. Freeze her out. Don't have to chat. Pain, smile, slap it on your face. Get through it.
Hey, Dan, just wondering, I'm in a relationship, been in a relationship about a year now. Things are pretty great, but I don't know, the sex has sort of waned over time. I feel like her desire has waned even more than mine. I mean, my girlfriend already had a pretty low sex drive to begin with, but now it seems like we just never really hook up, and we're almost like just basically friends with benefits without benefits. I guess just like friends. Best friends at that. I mean, it's great. I love hanging out with her and I love being with her, but I just feel like we don't have as much, sex as I'd like. And, my question to you is it fucked up to create like an online dating profile and, potentially seek out someone else while you're in a relationship? I mean, I don't know. I have issues with, being alone and stuff like that. And I don't really want to be alone, and it makes me nervous and stuff, and I'd like to have a backup plan if worse came to worse. So I'm just wondering what your opinion on that matter is. Like, I'm not saying going out and hooking up and like fucking other people and whatever while you're in a relationship. I get that that's not kosher, but I just mean like maybe like exploring your options while you're still in a relationship, sort of like putting your feelers out.
It seems to me that if you're best friends, if you're really that close, that you could be honest with her about what's really going on here. You've only been together a year. You're no longer having sex, that she doesn't seem to have much desire for you sexually. So obviously this is not a romantic relationship, not a sexual partnership. This is a really good and close friendship. And you could have that good and close friendship and not be alone, which you fear being, while you get out there and look around and see what else might be possible for you while you put those feelers out there. So you could be honest with her. Like, obviously we're not destined to be in a long-term romantic sexual relationship, because here we are a year in and then sex is over and we're really close. So maybe sex brought us together. Maybe there was an initial spark of desire, but now obviously the strong thing, what we really are, good friends. I'd like to start dating other people that I might have more of a sexual connection with and not lose your friendship. You can say all that. Who knows how she'll react? There are people who enter into relationships, people with low sex drives, people who are asexual, not yet fully aware of their asexuality, who enter into relationships where they don't want to have sex with that other person. They stop wanting to have sex with that other person, but they don't want that person to have sex with anybody else or regard anybody else as a potential romantic partner, because then they're going to lose that person. But they're going to lose that person anyway. And who knows, maybe she'll feel that way. And if you try to be honest with her about what's actually going on, which she should be able to perceive, it'll be the end of the relationship and you will be alone. I think you should take the honest course and you should say, look, this is where we are. This is where we're at. Obviously, we are going to be friends, right? That said, and I'm going to contradict myself now, the world is full of technically partnered people who are taking a look around and seeing what's out there. A lot of people don't end the relationship that they're in, whether it's sexless or not, or relatively happy or not, until something better appears on the horizon. That sometimes people need that incentive of an actual prospect, an actual date, an actual somebody who wants to fuck them to come along. And there are relationships that deserve to be taken outside behind the barn and shot and put down. And if what you need to get to that point to end the relationship that ought to be ended is a desire to be with somebody else without deceiving the person you are currently with, without hooking up, without having sex that isn't allowed you with somebody else, you need to officially end the relationship with the person you're with before you go and fuck somebody else. But you can't face up to ending that relationship until there is somebody else. It's not the best way. It's not the most ethical or honest way, but it is a really, really common way. The well-beaten path, and you can trot it with a relatively clean conscience. This episode of the Savage Lovecast is brought to you by Casper. Casper is an online retailer of premium mattresses for a fraction of the cost. Casper is revolutionizing the mattress industry by cutting the cost of dealing with resellers and showrooms and passing those savings directly to the consumer. A Casper mattress provides long-lasting comfort and support, and I know this for a fact because me and my husband sleep on one every night. You can buy it easily online and completely risk-free. Casper offers free delivery and painless returns with a 100-day period, so you don't have to lie down in a showroom. And Casper's mattresses uphold the highest environmental production standards, and they're made right here in the USA. Get a Casper mattress for $500 for a twin or $950 for a king-size mattress. You can save an additional $50 as one of our listeners by going to casper.com/savage and entering the promo code SAVAGE. That's casper.com/savage and promo code SAVAGE. Terms and conditions apply.
Hi, I'm a 37-year-old woman in Southern California. Dan, I love you, and I've thought many times over the years to call with questions about my own issues. And now that I'm actually calling, it's not even my issue. It's my friend Lily's, and it's not even human. It's about her cat. So Lily has a cat named Neko, and Neko has developed a humping problem. And it's a severe humping problem. He humps them, Lily and her husband. He humps them all night long, and he will hump their clean laundry and mess up clean folded laundry. And he's had house sitters, and he ends up getting locked out of the room because he keeps the house sitters up all night with his humping. And Lily is so sensitive and has done research into this and talked to the veterinarian and everything. She's been told that Neko just needs more attention. And they do that. They shower him with attention and try to make him feel loved. And the question for you, which I hope you'll find entertaining because I certainly do, she doesn't want to shame him. She doesn't want to make him feel bad for his humping, but she also wants him to stop his humping. So I guess we're wondering if you have any advice for cat humping issues, or if maybe you know some cat humping deterrers or cat expert. I don't know.
Joining me by phone to help field this one, which is so far outside of my areas of expertise, Dr. Sherry Trusheim, veterinarian and owner of Urban Animal Veterinary Clinic here in Seattle. Hey, Dr. Trusheim, how are you?
Hello, I'm well, thanks.
Quick question. Can you sex shame a cat? Is that a thing?
I don't know if cats feel shame per se, but they absolutely, it's not common, but they absolutely can masturbate.
And what's the best course of action if your cat is masturbating constantly? If your cat is the equivalent of a 14-year-old boy with an internet connection and mom and dad out of town for the weekend, what do you do?
I think there are definitely different styles of how you might manage that. But, some people might take a more aggressive route and use like a loud noise or, like an air horn or something to scare the cat to make them stop. Others might advocate for giving them...
Wait. Wouldn't the neighbors get annoyed by the air horn approach to training your cat?
Depends on how often he's doing it.
He's doing it constantly. You would have to get a crate of air horns and set them by the bed.
All joking aside, like there can actually be some medical causes for doing it. Not likely, but this is going to sound crazy. But if he has barbs on his penis, that could mean that he had a testicle left inside his abdominal cavity that didn't descend, which could contribute to the behavior. Mm-hmm. It's a stretch, but it's worth looking into. So I think a consultation with a veterinarian is not a bad idea. But
you're talking like a spare third testicle that they didn't get when they
like a retained testicle, or maybe they only removed one and they didn't go looking for the other.
Yeah, we don't even know if this cat has been neutered. Would the first approach be to make sure the cat has been neutered?
Absolutely. Yep. That's first and foremost. And doing that would certainly help. There's not too many folks that can live with an intact male cat, though. So I'm going to guess that he is, or they assume that he is. So the other thing would be if he has any foreplay, if there's anything leading up that they're like, oh, he's about to do it, then sort of doing something different, like get a favorite toy, give him some treats, give him something else to do besides masturbate on them.
What about the water bottle technique?
I personally, I'm scared to say it depending on who listens to your show, but I'm sort of an advocate of it, but a lot of folks see that as a negative reinforcement, and they don't, they want to do everything positive. So give him something else to do, redirect his attention. If he was my cat, I would think about the water bottle because I would just want it to stop.
Worked with my husband.
Yeah. See? And a cat might be smarter than the average husband.
But I had to fill the water bottle with tequila. That was our trick. That's what worked for us.
See, so that might be positive reinforcement.
And backing way up, and we should have probably clarified this at the front, this cat is humping all the time. This isn't a female cat going into heat, which is a once in a great while occurrence. This is a male cat that needs to bust a load all the time.
Yeah, all the time. Yes. Not normal, not common. But it's not impossible for cats to want to masturbate, even neutered male cats. It just, it's natural and feels good, I suppose.
But there's a limit to how much of that you should put.
Yes. I mean, I would not worry about shaming my cat. I'm not sure cats feel shame. I would be more focused on getting the behavior stopped.
And cats don't have access to Tumblr where they can complain about how they were sectioned by their owners. So it's not like there's going to be any blowback that these people get from a judgy online community of shitbags who have nothing better to do than badger other people about the choices they made and what they put in the water bottle that they trained their husband with.
Agreed. So I think it's a safe bet to do as needed.
Dr. Sherry Trusheim, veterinarian and owner of Urban Animal here in Seattle. Thank you so much for taking this one with me.
My pleasure.
This episode of the Savage Lovecast is brought to you by Squarespace, the simplest way for anyone to create a beautiful landing page, website, or online store. With easy-to-use tools and templates, Squarespace helps you personalize your site and make it your own. Their sites look professionally designed regardless of skill level, no coding required. The templates make it easy to use, and their customer support is friendly and accessible. Get a free domain if you sign up for a year. Start your free trial today at squarespace.com. When you decide to sign up for Squarespace, make sure to use the offer code SAVAGE to get 10% off your first purchase. That's Squarespace, offer code SAVAGE.
Hey, Dan and the tech-savvy at-risk queues. I'm a 30-year-old straight female, and I have a question regarding a friend of mine. I've known this guy since college. We went to art school together. He defines himself as straight, but this guy tends to carry all the gay rhythms. He's very flamboyant. He's not interested in women. His relationships are usually very short, and he said he never had sex because he's saving himself till marriage. Also, it's worth mentioning that he's religious and his parents are missionaries. And I know this is not my business and it's his life, his sexuality, but this is the problem. Right now, he became a well-known artist. He posts his art on social media constantly, and he has over about 100,000 followers, actually. And his art tends to often be a bit homoerotic. It's not too much, but he kind of obsessed with drawing butts, and it's kind of became his thing. And a lot of people comment on it that it's a bit gay, and he denies it. He says it just finds it funny. It's not. It has nothing to do with sexuality. Amongst our group of fellow artists, everyone now rolls their eyes and dismisses it as he's just closeted. I feel like as his friends, we should talk to him about maybe coming out, or at least let him know that we love him and support him if he ever decides to do it. Dan, have you heard of the social toupee concept? It's when someone is trying so hard to hide a trait about themselves, but everyone else can see it. Should we let him know that this toupee looks very silly in front of his massive amount of followers, or just keep our mouths shut and let him do his thing?
On the one hand, I want to tell you, it's really none of your business if this guy wants to spend the rest of his life in a transparent closet where everybody can see him under his social toupee. And yet, on the other hand, the closet is a miserable place to be, and I would hate to see someone abandoned there, particularly when there were friends and support waiting for him just outside the closet that he doesn't have the courage to open the door and walk out of. You know, being very religious and being gay and having parents who are missionaries and being gay is hard, and some people really try to suppress it. And then everybody can see it, just like you say, everybody can see it. The more you try to hide that one thing, the more everyone can see it. The more you suppress your sexual desires, the more you attempt to suppress your true sexual orientation, the more it leaks out in sometimes comical ways. Like, I'm going to, you know, I'm not a gay and I am a religious, but I am an artist and I'm going to specialize in drawing men's butts. Weird. Why would you land on that as your muse, I wonder? You know, it does get comic at times and it can seem ridiculous. It's a difficult position to be in. It depends on how close you are to him. It depends on what kinds of late night, midnight of the soul conversations you've had with him over the years. If you've really bared your soul to him, if he's helped you out of tough spots, if you've shared your pain with him and he's shared his pain with you but never fully gone there, you could push all the chits into the middle of the table and risk it and gamble and just say to him, look, I think you're gay and I think you're unhappy and I want you to be happy. And everybody I know who's gay and happy is gay and out and happy. There's no gay and closeted and happy. There's only gay and paranoid and closeted and miserable. The closet comes bundled with paranoia and misery and ridiculous shit like the social toupee that you talk about. Ridiculous shit like, I'm going to be an artist. I'm inspired by the male ass. There's no correlation here to anything. It's just, you know, butts. So yeah, you could say to him what you're really thinking. You might not want to say everybody thinks this, because that could cause him to double down on the closet, the humiliation of that. You don't want him to nail the closet door shut with another case of nails and a nail gun because he's so freaked out that people are perceiving him to be gay when he's working so hard to deny it. So don't go in with everybody thinks, everybody can tell, but go in with, you know, if you are, and I've always thought you might be, and all signs point toward, I love you, come out, be happy, you'd have friends and support, and your parents will get the fuck over it. And if they don't get the fuck over it, one day they will be dead. And there's a God out there who loves and accepts you. Go read Matthew Vine's God and the Gay Christian, or get him a copy of Matthew Vine's God and the Gay Christian. Because he can have his beliefs, he can hold on to his imaginary sky friends, and get some ass too, male ass. Get some of that hot, sweaty muse on his face, as opposed to on his canvases. Whether you're wearing a suit or sweats, you spend almost 24 hours a day in your underpants. But instead of making a statement like Superman's tights under his everyday clothes, your underwear is probably kind of boring. MeUndies is here to change that. Every pair of MeUndies is made from sustainably sourced modal, a fabric that's twice as soft as cotton. Once you try them on, you'll understand why they're called the world's most comfortable underwear. And if you don't love your first pair of MeUndies, they're free. No questions asked. MeUndies has dozens of styles and limited edition prints to help you make a statement with your underwear, no matter who gets to see them. Shipping is free in the U.S. and Canada, and you can save up to $8 a pair with the MeUndies subscription plan. Get the subscription or a single pair and get 20% off your first order when you go to MeUndies.com/savage. That's MeUndies.com/savage for 20% off your first order.
Hey, Dan, this is a mid-20s cis male, straight, in the upper Midwest. I got a question about some infidelity stuff, but it's not the usual thing. I met a girl on OkCupid, and it mentioned in her profile that she was seeing someone and that she was, in fact, cheating. And I didn't realize this as soon as I had messaged her. But shortly into the conversation, she mentioned that she was married, and yes, she was indeed cheating. She was looking for casual sex / friends with benefits, and I was kind of too. So the next day we met up when I had some free time, and we had sex. I was wondering if, I don't feel particularly bad about it. I'm not going to see her again, even though she wants to, because I'm not entirely comfortable with her situation. But am I the bad guy here? Is it? I know people have had sex with girls and then realized that they were the other man later and felt bad. But I knew beforehand, and I still did it. I don't feel bad, but I'm wondering if I should.
So, as I've pointed out on the show 8 zillion times, cheating is sometimes not the wrong thing to do, that cheating sometimes is the least worst option, that there are instances where cheating saves a marriage that maybe ought to be saved. So it's hard for me to give a ruling here without knowing why she was cheating on her husband with you, because that would determine whether you were part of a heroic save of a marriage that ought to be saved and cheating is the only way to save it, or if you were a selfish cad thinking only with your dick and cuckolding some guy who's not turned on by the thought of being cuckolded. So which is it? Did she tell you why she's cheating?
I didn't outright ask because I don't know if it was much of my business, but I did kind of probe a little bit.
It's totally your business because she's wanting to cheat with you, and she told you that in advance. That makes it your business. So you did ask.
Correct. So I did ask in a way, and I indirectly asked, does your husband not want to fuck you? And she said no, and I don't particularly want to fuck him either. And that's kind of as far as I went with that.
Did you get a sense of how long they'd been together?
I think she said something like 2 years, and they've been married for a year.
Oh my God, that's so tragic.
Yeah.
All right, well, I'm going to give my blessing here because,
really?
I don't think this is the case where, two people have been together for 15 years and they have kids and there's a lot of stresses and the desire is gone, but they need to keep that partnership going because it's in the best interest of their family and, they do actually like each other and they just need this outside sexual attention and affirmation in the absence of finding that at home to stay together. And that's like a cut and dried case where cheating's probably permissible. But in this case, that cheating is the C4 explosive that's going to implode a marriage that needs to be imploded.
I wasn't the only one either. I also found out.
Okay, well, if 2 years in, she's serial cheating on him and he's probably serial cheating on her, if they're not above board with each other about that, and I doubt that they are 2 years in, a year into the marriage, that they're just, each of them pounding their hands down on the self-destruct button. And this sounds like a marriage that needs to be destructed, in my opinion. How about yours?
I mean, yeah. I mean, I've been with a hot wife before where he knew, and it was a turn on for him, and it was all above board. I met him before, and it was great. And I guess this was just way different, which is why I don't want to do it again.
This is just, you walked up on somebody who was slamming her hand down on the self-destruct button, and you pulled your dick out and slammed your dick down on it too.
Yes. Yeah, so I guess that helps.
I guess so. I mean, there's just there's a way to rationalize this that gets you off the cad hook, right?
Yeah. Like I said, I didn't really feel bad about it. Like,
but as a general
had
rule,
agency in the decision.
right? She did. But as a general rule, like if somebody stole a car and they ask you to park it for them, yeah, you didn't steal the car, but probably not necessarily an unshitty thing to do. Right? You ate it and abetted someone.
I'm not absolved of. Yeah, I'm not absolved of.
But in this particular circumstance, which with the limited details you have about what's going on in their marriage, if I were you, I would feel bad-ish, but not too bad.
Yeah, I'm not going to beat myself up over it, but I won't do it again. I don't think.
Stick to hot wives in the future.
Will do.
Good luck.
All right, thanks, Dan.
Hi, I'm just calling to ask, what do you do when you have a friend whom you had feelings for and you express those feelings to them and they basically, she basically told me that she couldn't really feel had the same feelings for me and that she was also sort of in a long distance relationship with this guy, so it wouldn't really work out. And I had sort of gone into it without expectations. I was like, all right, I just wanted to get off my chest and that was good. But then immediately afterwards, she starts acting in a very touchy-feely kind of way and asking me questions about my feelings on monogamy and like asking me, about previous, romantic partners and things like that. And essentially sort of stoking these intense feelings that I had put aside and had expected to put aside, but then she's still ostensibly unavailable, but then is kind of stoking the flame a bit. I don't know what to do about that.
Dude, she's not unavailable. She's in a long distance and what sounds like non-monogamous relationship, but she's not owning up to it because she fears being judged or shamed by you, which is a thing that people who are not monogamous often encounter. You expressed a sexual interest in her. She told you she's involved with somebody else. It's a long-distance relationship. Sounds like it's a primary relationship, perhaps. And the fact that she pivoted from I can't, implying that she couldn't date you because she's with someone else, to sussing you out on your feelings about monogamy and your relationship history is a pretty good sign that she is open to being with you in some limited capacity. When you hit on somebody and they say, I have a boyfriend, and then they turn around and start saying, how do you feel about monogamy? What are they trying to tell you? Obviously, they're trying to tell you that the boyfriend isn't necessarily a disqualifying impediment to you getting in their pants too. So she's tiptoeing around the issue. Time for you to call the question. When you see her next and she is being touchy-feely and she asks you leading questions about monogamy, you just look at her and say, I'm getting the impression that you're flirting with me, even though you led me to believe that nothing was possible. Are you in an open relationship with your boyfriend? Because if you are, fill in the blank. Depends on what you want and what you're willing to do or settle for, caller. Fill in the blank. Because I'm not interested in being with someone who has a boyfriend, because I'm not interested in a non-monogamous relationship, because I would be totally up for that. I would be totally game for that. If you need some dick here more readily available to you, I am happy to be that dick. Fill in the blank with whatever it is you feel about this situation and this circumstance.
Hey, Dan. So 28-year-old straight male. Just had a quick question. I know I sound like an asshole in asking this, just to preface. But I have this little qualm with my girlfriend. We've been dating for a while. So she doesn't wear makeup anymore. And it seems like she just doesn't do her hair. She doesn't really do anything. I guess on the one hand it's nice because she's so comfortable with me that she doesn't feel like she has to do that. But then on the other hand, sometimes I kind of want her to like dress up and look nice and stuff. Especially when we go out in public. Because I do. Yeah, I don't wear makeup, mind you, but I feel like I kind of like put myself together and stuff. And I don't know. I know this sounds really vain, and I feel like an asshole even asking it. But it's a legitimate feeling I had. So I just thought I would run it by you. I'm sure I'm going to get a lot of hate from listeners about this. I know I feel like an asshole, but it's just a feeling I have. I can't help it.
I don't think you're an asshole for wanting your girlfriend to make an effort to look attractive for you. Apparently, presumably, she was making an effort to look attractive for you before you became boyfriend and girlfriend. When you first met, when you were first dating, she tried and made an effort. And the minute she lands you, the minute you're a going concern, the minute she doesn't have to try anymore, she stops trying. And that just means you're being taken for granted. And that never feels good. And of course, this is gendered, and of course, women are hounded about their looks, and makeup is a lot more cumbersome and involves putting on makeup than just slapping a little goo in your hair if you're a guy and using moisturizer. But still, you'd like her to look nice for you, just as you make an effort to look nice for her. I remember getting a letter years ago from a straight couple who, before they married, after watching what happened to so many of their friends and to their parents, they had a pact. They swore a pact as they were getting married. At that stage in their relationship where they were really trying to woo each other and making an effort to attract each other, the pact they made when they married was no schlubs. We are not going to turn into schlubs. We're not going to take each other for granted. I am going to try for you as you will try for me, and there will be no schlubbing. And it also gave them license, they said in this letter that ran in my column, to elbow each other in the ribs a little bit when schlubbery was creeping in around the edges. There was, of course, a sexist interpretation that could be applied to, or a sexist analysis, or a misogynistic analysis that could potentially be applied to schlubbery when he elbowed her. Not so much when she elbowed him, but still, because there's so much more cultural baggage heaped up on women about their looks and about making an effort for men and about doing it for men and doing it for men. But if in the context of your relationship, it is mutual and egalitarian and you try for her as she tries for you, or you try for her in a way that she no longer tries for you, makes an effort for you, you make an effort for her, I think that you have an absolute right to bring that up. Who knows what her reasons might be? Maybe she was in a relationship in the past where once it reached the stage where your relationship is in now, any effort on her part to look attractive, to worry about her hair, to worry about her makeup, to go out looking awesome was regarded by her boyfriend as flirting with other guys, as attracting attention that she no longer needed to attract because she had him. Who knows what you'll find out if you risk talking to her about it? Maybe you'll find out that she hates wearing makeup and never liked wearing makeup, and this was an effort she made just for finding a guy, and she's always regarded finding that guy as the end of all that, in which case you guys need to talk that out. I suspect, however, it may be the former, that she may have had relationships in the past where the guy she was with regarded any effort made on her part once they were together as a betrayal. As signaling an interest in other men's sexual attention or erotic attentions or flirty attentions. And she may be inhibited about it. And if you say to her, I want people to want you and get to go home with you, and that's going to be good for our thing, good for our relationship, maybe you'll get a little bit more effort in the hair and makeup department. And when you have this conversation, it will also help if you tell her, if I let it go a little bit and you have something to say it to me. I will do my sit-ups. I will get a haircut. When that time comes, I will get my back waxed.
Hey, Dan, Nancy, and the tech-savvy at-risk youth. This is in response to the caller from episode 501 who liked to fantasize about her brother. There's some effect that in psychology whereby people tend to be turned off by their siblings, and most people feel it, but some people don't. And I don't either. I find it quite sexy to fantasize about my sister. Like you said, I don't want to fuck her. I don't want to touch her any way at all. It's just fun to think about her. I don't know why. My brain didn't get the thing that turns you off your siblings. Seems harmless to me.
Hi, Dan. I'm calling about a woman who was speaking on episode 501, and she's the one whose husband has a very high sex drive, and she refers to herself as having a low sex drive. And considering everything she was doing in the compromising, I would argue that she doesn't yet have a true sense of what her sex drive is. I believe sounds like they've been together since teenagers. So I hope she thinks about what that means, thinking she has a low sex drive if she's only comparing it to her husband.
This message is for the young lady whose husband of 14 years is shitting and pissing and expecting sex every other day. I just wanted to say that I couldn't agree with Dan more. Not only is it asking a lot of you, but I think in this situation, less is more, because I can't imagine that the quality of the sex that he is receiving from you is quite the same as it would be if, let's say, you were doing it once a week. I'm sure that I would enjoy it more. And if my husband were asking me to have sex every other day, I can't imagine that the quality of it would be fantastic. So I definitely think you should take his advice on this and kind of put a firm foot right up his ass and tell him, look, this needs to stop.
And we're going to leave it there. 206-302-2064 is the number here at the Savage Lovecast. If you'd like to record a question or a comment for a future show, give us a buzz, 206-302-2064. Follow me on Twitter at FakeDanSavage. Follow Ella Dawson on Twitter at Bros and Pros. And a big thank you to Dr. Sherry Trusheim from Urban Animal. Savage Lovecast is produced every week by Nancy Hartunian and me and the tech-savvy at-risk youth and Nancy. We'll all be back at you next week with another installment of the Savage Lovecast. Thanks for downloading.